I was always fascinated and interested with this question of how is it that some of the world's top companies are consistently able to outperform their competitors? How is it that some of the world's top companies are consistently able to attract and retain top talent? And how is it that some organizations around the world are constantly able to come up with ideas for new products and services, meanwhile, their competitors struggle? And the answer to this comes to some research that was done years ago in the United States by a psychologist by the name of Thomas Gilovich. And what Thomas Gilovich did is he tried to understand the relationship between your satisfaction and happiness levels depending on if you invest in a physical good, like an iPhone, or if you invest in an experience. And what he found is that if you invest in a physical good, let's say, for example, you buy an iPhone, over time, your satisfaction starts to go down. However, if you invest in an experience, then over time, your satisfaction goes up. And that is what the world's top companies have figured out. How do we make it feel like when people start working for us, they didn't just invest in a physical good, they're investing in an experience. And too often today, in the world of work that we're all a part of, it's transactional. The relationship that most employees have with their businesses and that businesses have with their employees is just like buying a physical good. It's a transaction. And so you start off working on the first day, you're very excited and happy, and over time, satisfaction goes down. So how do we change that? How do we make it feel like when you start working for a company and as you spend more time there, your satisfaction actually goes up? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And that is at the core of what employee experience is all about. How do we make it feel like when people are working for us, they are learning, they're growing, they're developing, they're getting better, they're becoming leaders. You want to be a part of that company because of the experience that you get. Now, I was actually very interested in what is happening as far as employee experience as a concept. And so I went to Google Trends, I typed in the word employee experience, and I looked at the worldwide searches to see, is this a concept that is becoming more popular or less popular in different countries and in organizations around the world? Now, when I wrote my book on employee experience, that came out in the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017. And you can see on that chart that even there, employee experience was starting to become popular. And then you can see the red line where the pandemic is. And post-pandemic, the concept of employee experience really took off. Why is that the case? Because a lot of us over the past few years felt disconnected and isolated and alone. We were disconnected from our colleagues. We weren't aligned with the company mission and vision. We weren't aligned with our coworkers. And so post-pandemic, all these organizations around the world were starting to figure out, how do we create that experience where we can reconnect and realign and rebuild and redefine what it means to think about work? So employee experience as a concept is even more popular now than when I wrote the book many, many years ago. But how did we actually get to this point? How did we get into this world of employee experience? If you were to look back over the past several decades, you'd see that we actually followed a pretty interesting timeline. And it started off with utility. And if you were to look back several decades ago, utility is really about what are the essential tools that you can give an employee so that they can get their jobs done. If you look at the knowledge worker today, the essential tools that you need to get your job done are what? A desk, a phone, the internet, maybe a cubicle somewhere, and that's it. And this is how a lot of organizations started thinking about work. What do we just give our employees so that they can do their job? Then fast forward several years, we got into this world of productivity. And productivity was really about, now that you have the tools to get your job done, How do we get you to work faster? How do we get you to be more productive? How do we get you to work better? How do we get you to produce even more? There was actually a period of time during the 40s, 50s, and 60s when employees would work in manufacturing facilities, the managers would stand behind them with a stopwatch and try to get them to do their tasks a couple seconds quicker. Right? We were trying to be as productive as possible. And then after that, fast forward a few years, we got to this world of engagement. I like to think of this as the era of enlightenment when we think about the business world. And engagement was really about how do we make our employees happy? How do we make it so that when you show up to work, you have a smile on your face? And we became very obsessed and interested in this concept of employee engagement. So we moved from this world of employee engagement, where we talked about how do we make our employees happy, to this world of employee experience. And employee experience is a long-term approach. Employee experience is not just about making your employees happy. Employee experience is about how do you create an organization where there is a mutual exchange of value. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that means in just a minute. Employee experience is about having a purpose-led organization. And so this is the world that we're in now, the world and the era of employee experience.